Hey gang, welcome. Thanks for joining me again today. And we are hoping that we have a good enough signal to broadcast to Facebook at the same time that I'm broadcasting on YouTube. So technicalities sometimes preclude that, but we're going to give it a try today anyway. Hope that's all right with you. Welcome to my Facebook friends. All right, we have our normal YouTube crew. Hey, let's get legal. Today is Tuesday, October 27th. Hey, my big sister's birthday. We're going to go help her celebrate later today. This is Daily Art Adventure number 987. Can you see it? There we are. Woohoo! Still creeping up on number 1,000. I expect to buy a new camera between now and the day that I broadcast number 1,000. So that'll be coming up soon. A little upgrade in the equipment. And here is the piece that I'm working on. Facebook, are we broadcasting? Facebook, hold on. Hang on. All right. Nice shot at the top of my head. You know, whenever you see a man who's bald in back, you always a little bit wonder, does he know how bald he is in back? Just want you to know, in my case, I'm very aware of that because I see videos of myself from the back all the time. All right, this is Randy and Toan. He's Vietnamese, and I worked on it. Let me bring you guys in here real close just for a second. Let you see the detail on Randy's face. A little bit of shaking here. I just want you to be able to see. There we go. A little bit left, a little bit right, a little bit left, a little bit right. There we go. Right, so how close can we get anyway? Whoa, it's pretty close. You understand, there's my finger. So her face is about the size of my thumbprint, just to give you a sense. And I believe small portraits are more difficult. So that's my excuse. And when I came and looked at it with fresh eyes, which maybe some of you know, the best way to recover from portrait blindness, so to speak, is to go away from it and come back and see it with fresh eyes. And when I came back today, I realized that that his head is a tiny bit small. But I believe before we start painting, I think the first thing I'm going to do, I worked on just her face and arm and his head yesterday. Before I start painting, I'm going to give all of that area, I'm going to wipe some of that off. Don't panic yet. I'll tell you when it's time to panic, okay? It's not time yet. I'm going to do a slight, real fine glaze to warm up. It had kind of, I don't know if you could see it or not on your monitor, but it had kind of almost a powdery, chalky, that's what it had kind of a chalky feel about it. And that's considerably better right there. Isn't that amazing? Even though again, wiping most of it or much of it off, it doesn't feel chalky anymore. All right, so his head needs to be allowed. Hey, let me show you a recent, this is not a recent invention, but I just built another one. Some of them, just some crazy tips for painting. This is just a piece of insulation pink, you know, Pink Panther insulation that I cut out and then stuck a bunch of holes, melted it actually with a soldering iron. That doesn't matter, you could use anything. And I have this taped down to my tabaret. I'll show you here my, whoops, sorry, crazy. Okay, you see it right there? Okay, so that holds 14, 15 brushes or so while I am doing portraits, because so I don't have to keep cleaning brushes. I just use one color, you know, mix up a color on one brush and try to just use that brush over and over and over again for that color. And when doing portrait, of course, you have a whole bunch of colors. In fact, let me show you again and flip you over and give you another tour. So there's my palette as I left it yesterday. You see it's just a hodgepodge of flesh tones. It started out more organized than that, but the longer I painted, the less organized it became. All right, so let's see. Yeah, mostly just a tiny bit on the back of his head. I'm not actually measuring, and a little bit on top too. I'm not using proportional dividers or anything like that. I'm just going completely by sight at the moment. So, as I said, when I came back to the painting this morning and saw it with fresh eyes, I said, whoops, his head is a tiny bit small. That feels better to me. Tomorrow, when I see it with fresh eyes, again, oh, and his part is a little bit low, so I'm going to paint over his part and then redo that. It's possible that when I see it tomorrow, I'm going to go, oh, his head's too big. Welcome to the wild and wonderful world of portraiture. But I don't think I will. I don't think so. I think it's better. So now his collar needs to come back a little bit more. And it needs a little bit more white on anyway, so it's pure titanium white. No, it's not. It's got a little bit of, yeah, no, it's got a little bit of warm in it. Pure titanium is rarely used in a painting because it has a cool bluish tint to it. If you use titanium white straight out of the tube, it feels bluish. I think you know that already. So it almost always needs to be warmed up. There are rare exceptions. There are some street lights, especially if you're painting like out in the country, a mercury vapor light, I think it is, out in the farmyard, out by the barn, and have a bluish lit, and it's very questionable even at that, whether you actually want to make that light bluish. But sometimes, I've done it a couple times, it's certainly realistic because the mercury vapor light, I think it's mercury vapor, actually is blue-white in color. Usually you don't want it blue-white, even though that's literal. But anyway, a couple times I have. That was a crazy tangent, wasn't it? All right, now, his suit is blue. So I mixed up some ultramarine blue, because it's a more of a purplish blue than a greenish blue. But when I put it on the painting, it's like, whoa, it's way too intense. So I used my favorite color killer. Hello, Marcus. Hello, Aureli Barajas. Welcome. Did I paint them favorably? Yes. Um, the challenge is to paint them everybody is to paint everybody favorably, but not overdo it. And again, I often reference one of the greatest portrait painters in the world, certainly in America, um, John Singer Sargent, who took considerable liberties with his subjects and stretched them out even more than I am. But yeah, it is a special challenge when you're painting someone who's not skinny to how much you elongate them. I elongate everybody, okay? Virtually everybody. Again, all right, as I say, I John Singer Sargentize them. I use that term for another technique. Yeah. Anyway, it's a very, very delicate balance. All right, let me tell you what else is a delicate balance right here. And this would be a very easy mistake to make. Thank you, Aurelie. Appreciate that. In the photograph, well, actually in this photograph, it's not a good, it's actually fuzzy, right? That line is fuzzy. That's because it's a bad photograph. If it were a good photograph, that would be sharp. But the point I want to make is, even though it's kind of a funny point now, in a good photo, that would be razor sharp. The edge of his suit would be razor sharp. But you do not want to paint it razor sharp. You want it to be fuzzy. Now the question is, how much, again, talking about delicate balance, how fuzzy? Never paint with your fingers. I feel obligated to say that every time I paint with my fingers. I was just using my thumb right there, literally to smear the back, the wet paint that I just put down, the dark blue paint, the back of his jacket. Now, let's tap into another rule of thumb, another pretty important practice, and that is anytime you put down dark paint on your canvas, you follow up with light. Now, this gets a little confusing because the blue that I'm putting on his suit right now, the blue that's on my brush is lighter than the blue that was there. So it's an opaque blue. That means it's lighter. You understand? It's lighter than what was there. But this dark blue is darker than what's behind it. So the common adage, the common practice, the common rule is anytime you put down dark, you follow up with light. And this edge is dark. So that means I will mix up some of this light brown and come in and carve into his blue jacket a little bit. Just a little bit here and there. At the same time, being careful to retain that soft edge. And I don't know, you probably can't see very good. I'm just going to have to ask you to trust me that there's a slight bit of fuzz. On that back edge of his suit. Now I have the same picture here, I believe. Let's get on this phone. This is the camera I used to take. I don't have full size. Okay. I'm trying to see. Oh, he's got well, I don't know if he has a boutonniere or not, but I'm going to leave it out. I'm not going to paint it in because it's green, and I already have green in between. Underneath her chin is already green. So let's just stick with finishing up his suit for the moment. The last Saturday night, I was doing a different wedding. So the wedding, the painting I'm doing right now, is a wedding painting that was actually done a week ago. No, 2 weeks ago Sunday. This one's really getting dragged out. Pardon me, I know I'm standing right in your way. Sometimes can't be helped. It's more important that I paint. So I just put some dark blue on my brush. So I'm doing the dark details in his suit, and shadow and creases, wrinkles, creases, and so on. So this past Saturday, I was doing a different wedding painting, which I will hopefully get back to this week also. And in that wedding, the groom was wearing a black tux. And I talked for a few minutes then on Saturday about that old rule that we've all heard. It is generally true, but not absolutely true. The rule is don't use black. Don't use black paint. That's like a standard old art professor-ism. That is what looks like black. There is an exception to that, however, and that is if you're painting a black object, like in Saturday it was a black tux, then the shadows, not the whole tux, of course not, I didn't paint it black, but when you're painting a black tux, the shadows on a black tux, I use black paint. Whew. All that is to say, right now, however, he is not wearing a black tux, he's wearing a dark blue suit. So I am using chroma black. You know what I mean by chroma black? That is, I'm not making that up. That's literally the name of a black that you mix up on your palette by mixing together several. In this case, it was ultramarine blue and raw umber, tiny bit of oxide red, but don't write that down. That you do not. It's anything you can use. You can use dioxazine violet and viridian green, phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, any number of browns, not yellow ochre or, of course, yellow ochre. It's not yellow, it's brown, but it's not opaque. So I mean, it's not transparent. It must be transparent. All right, enough of that nonsense. Let's get on to something else. I think I'm going to do one more touch, then one more highlight on his suit. And then, at least for the moment, call him done. I said a while ago, I want to make sure that this line here is fuzzy, not sharp. And some of you might be saying, why? Because our eye sees it as sharp. Yes. If you stare, anyway, I don't want to get into the whole lecture. There is a whole lecture I have about why. But I'm just going to, at the moment, I'm going to say, for one thing, one of the reasons, never paint with your fingers, one of the reasons you should paint it fuzzy is because it's a rounded object and it's going away from us, that shoulder, right? It's going receding away from us. And if you make it razor sharp, it will look flat. But if you make it fuzzy, it will look more like what you want it to look like. You want it to look like it's a rounded object receding, right? Okay, I'm going to leave that almost. Let's go ahead and finish Toan. That's his name. He's Vietnamese, I think. I'm pretty sure he's Vietnamese. And I sort of felt bad that we didn't get his face in in this particular shot, but I took hundreds of pictures, as I do, because these phones, of course, take the machine gun, you know, brrr, so I'll take 20 or 30 pictures at a burst, and I'll do that, you know, 20 times. 20 times 20, that'd be 400 photographs. Yeah, and I think the other day, I think I probably did take close to 400 photographs. When Randy and Toan, they were lovely, truly, they were lovely, and their dance was lovely, but most of the time, their faces were overlapping. They danced sort of cheek to cheek the whole time, if you will, so I couldn't really get, move this, my reference. By the way, I am going to, the mother of the bride ordered 2 of these paintings. So I'm actually going to do the same exact painting, if you know what I mean, quote unquote, the same exact painting twice, which will in fact be a bit of a challenge to me, because it's difficult for me to paint, quote unquote, the same painting. Now, I hope you understand it. It's not going to be the same painting. When I start to do the second painting of this scene, I'll have a photograph like this. I won't copy this painting. I'll copy the photograph. So it will actually be a, a separate and unique painting. Of course, I'll start with abstract underpainting, just like always. What you see me doing now is some of this light adjacent to, up close to, and a tiny bit on the edge there. So it's a bit of a balancing act. It really is. If you're confused, then you're paying attention. Because it is a little bit, wait a minute, well, so if you're doing light, won't that like make it a hard edge again? Yeah, right. Hello, Marcus. Wonderful, Marcus. Oh, thank you for the net. Thank you for the notice about static. Thank you. All right, I am ready to move all the way down to his hand, which you can probably see there is I don't think we're broadcasting. I'm going to try one more time. Try one more time to broadcast time. Oh, it's okay. Never mind. Facebook is being very difficult. That is most grievous. Bear with me just a minute. Let's see if I can pull up the larger photograph of Randy and Toan from 16 days ago. It's getting to be, here we go. Come. All right, while I'm waiting for that, I'll just look at this photograph. All right, so back to some flesh tones. I already have a big mess of flesh tones on my rats. Sorry, folks. I'm looking for a photograph that doesn't look like I have it. So all I have then is this. And I just discovered a slight error in drawing. That is, this sleeve needs to come up a little bit and needs to go a little bit further to our right. It needs to extend back a little bit further. Marcus, a cartographer from Germany. No kidding. I didn't know we still had cartographers. I'm kidding, sort of. There are not very many of you, though, are there? A map maker, you mean? A map maker? Wow. And it's funny your name is Marcus, because one of my dear friends is named Marcus, and he's from Austria. So when I saw you read your name, I had a Germanic impression already. Isn't that funny? Thanks for watching. Yes, I have to counterfeit my own painting. Exactly. And I hope that my client, I hope they like both paintings, because, whew, I'm not sure that non-artists really understand, because the two paintings will not be identical, and I hope that doesn't cause trouble, if you know what I mean. I hope they're not unhappy. Wait, they're not the same. And one is going to go to the bride and groom. The other is going to go to the mother of the bride. And I hope that I don't cause a big family fight. Truly. Because they're about to find out how unique each painting is, and that it's not, it's not a carbon copy kind of thing. I don't do the same painting twice. I can't do the same. I did think for one moment, I thought, you know what? Maybe I should just get a digital print of this painting on another canvas and then just retouch it. Ooh. And don't tell them. Of course, I've invited them to watch this video, so they just heard me say that probably. But no, I don't think that would be, I could make them really pretty identical if I did that, but nah, that would irritate me. So anyway, Brenda, Emma, Randy, you guys are going to have to duke it out, and I hope each of you likes a different one. Because they will not be identical. That's not how an artist works. That's how a printing press works. Or a copy machine, but I am not a copy machine. Anyway, so I'll do my best to do two fantastic paintings, even though they won't be identical. All right, so I am repainting Toan's hand here. And the biggest part of painting his hand will actually be painting the white dress. Around his hand. But instead of jumping right in there, I'm going to start, I'm going to bring you guys down just a little bit. I'm going to start redrawing her dress just a little bit. This line needs to come back a little further, and part of her dress is here. I don't know whether to say this or not, but whoops. But this is all part of the artist's pressure, job, conundrum, challenge. As you can see, she's a fairly large woman, very attractive, beautiful face, and carried herself very well. And she was also very well endowed, if you know what I mean. I felt kind of, because that certainly is part of her charm, if you will. Again, I'm trying to be discreet and yet realistic, and just realistic is the challenge. And I am kind of disappointed that of all the photographs that I took of her, we ended up with one that does not capture some of her, shall we say, charm. So, and again, forgive me, I'm just being really, this is what it's like to be an artist. You have to think, this is part of your job. You have to think about such things. It's like, oh well, I'm thinking, let me see, is there any way I can, I don't know, I might cheat a little bit. Oh, almost. So I hope I haven't either just scandalized or embarrassed half my audience. My apologies if I have, but I'm gonna say, as some people say, we're all adults. We're all adults here, except the ones of you who are not adults. I doubt that there's any children watching me. But I mention it because it's part of the process. It's part of what I have to do. I want to show every person. I want to show them in the best possible light. Just make the little mark that I made out here on top of Bryan, make it a little bit softer. Yeah, I think I need to darken here, right here in that corner, under his arm. A little bit too bright. And so that is part of what I'm thinking at the moment. It's like, man, is there any way I can indicate, as I said, I'm trying to put it discreetly, some of her primary charms. That funny old-fashioned word. No, she had big boobs, okay? And more modern, blunt language. And again, it's a woman. It's part of her, some of her assets, if you will. And she was a beautiful young woman. She really was. I still is, I presume. Randy, I'm assuming you're still with us. You are still beautiful. And it's my job to try to capture that faithfully, which is a challenge, always a challenge in every portrait. It's like, oh my goodness, I have to try to capture the apex of God's good creation. the human female. Rocks and hills and waterfalls and mountains are beautiful. And I like painting those. But they're a piece of cake compared to capturing, as I said, the zenith, the climax of, and of course I'm using here religious, what many of you call religious language, so you just have to bear with me for a minute. You can use other language if you want. Here's another trick I've learned. Whenever I'm drawing the groom's sleeve, like this. Now, in this case, in the photograph, there actually is a little sliver of his shirt. But here's a trick I've learned is that even if there's in the photograph, if that sliver of white is not there in the photograph, I add it anyway. In fact, the other wedding portrait that I'm going to be working on, that I started on Saturday, past Saturday night, that was the case. In the photograph, this little bit of the groom's sleeve, shirt sleeve, did not show. But I've learned you add it anyway, okay? You notice how I'm holding the brush, breaking all my rules about, you know, this is tongue painting, folks. Even if my tongue is not stuck out, this is most certainly tongue painting. Not the best way to paint, not the best painting. But there are times when the subject matter just calls for it. You don't have much choice. In fact, I'm going to make it even go one step worse, so to speak. Since I use pencils throughout my painting process, I'm going to use them to my benefit right now to do a little bit of hard edges, hard shadow edges here. Now he's wearing a ring, even though it's his right hand. Toan is wearing a ring, so I will indicate that in a minute. Wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if I come back and work on his hand some more. Oh, I really wish. Okay, now since I'm doing rings, let's go back and do her. I omitted that yesterday completely. I painted her hand yesterday. Let's magnify that. Very, very blurry. I really can't see much there, but let's just do that for now. This use of a pencil in an oil painting is unconventional. Don't anybody, you know, rush off to your art teacher and say, "Hey, I understand it's okay to use pencils." Your art teacher will say, "What in the world are you talking about? No, you can't use pencils," right? So I'm breaking the rules, right? Just understand that. Every rule can be broken, and it just happens to be part of my style, if you will. There's the use of pencil throughout the painting, so I feel like I have sort of visual permission, if you will, to use it here and there for details. All right, I'm going to call the hands finished, and let's do a little bit, okay, on, let's do a little bit, oh, people chatting up a storm over here. Markers, now they're called geometricians. Wow. Hello, Chia Ibas. Let me think for a minute about her dress. So I just painted some right there, but everything from there down is dry. So I think I'm going to do another glaze. Now, I've talked about this quite a bit before. Let me mention it again. So how do you paint white stuff? Stuff that's white. Last year I did a painting really for fun. It was a painting of a white building with a white sky and a white road and a white truck in front of it. In other words, everything in the scene was white, and it was kind of for fun. Okay, hang on just a second. What color? Believe it or not, there's a tiny bit of red in that photograph that I don't have. Anyway, how do you paint white stuff? And the smart aleck answer is by using everything but white. Use every color but white. And I'm saying that sort of in reaction to the typical beginner, early journey painter. You know, if you're painting a white horse, you pick up, you dip, you stick your brush in white paint. If you're painting a white house, you stick your brush in white paint. If you're painting a white wedding dress, you stick your brush in white paint. And in a sense, I'm saying, no. How do you paint a white object? The answer is by using any color but white. I'm exaggerating, I'm playing just, again, to make the point. There we go. So I've just darkened that whole thing a little bit. It was already dark, now it's even darker. Eventually, of course, eventually, in the very, very, very last or late stages of the white object, you do, in fact, paint with white. You do, in fact, dip your brush in white paint. But the difference is the beginner will rush to white paint much, much, much too soon, prematurely. So let me answer the question again in other ways. Speaking of white, time to put. Oh, and the white paint, of course, that I use. You've heard me say this before, is alkyd. That means it's a fast drying paint. Okay, fast drying oil paint. And in response to Chia, I may be mispronouncing your name, forgive me, E-Boss, yes, I make everybody thinner. That's part of the, but it's a balance. I talked about that several minutes ago. How much thinner? That's the challenge. Not so much that people look at, the customer looks at the paint and say, "Egads, you made me skinny." That would be too much, okay? So it's a very, very delicate balance. I talked about it both this past, at the last wedding that I did just 3 days ago on Saturday, and you can go back and watch me paint most of that. I talked about this elongation of the human figure, or in a portrait, I feel like it's very appropriate to make the figures a little more heroic, if you will. That's one word. Heroic proportions. Although, honestly, the degree of exaggeration that I'm doing doesn't quite rise to the level of heroic. All right, back to how do you paint white objects? And I said the smart aleck answer is by using anything but white paint. More accurately, you forestall, you delay the use of white as long as possible. So right now I am most certainly not using white paint. This is yellow, tan, brown, almost just a little tiny bit lighter than a Naples yellow, for those of you who are painters and you might be familiar with the color Naples yellow. What I'm using right now is just a little bit lighter than that. Naples yellow is a very pale yellow brown. It's not a yellow, it's a yellow brown, right? So just to give you some idea, it's about the color of pancake batter before the pancake is cooked. Okay, so again, I have room for at least 2 more layers on top of this one, 2 more layers lighter. Makes sense? And I should probably tell I'm looking pretty carefully at the photograph here, trying to faithfully, though in an abstract manner, not slavishly, but faithfully render the folds in the fabric. So I'll be doing at least 2 more layers of white on top of this one, although it's actually possible that I may do, after this dries, I may glaze the whole, just as you saw me do a minute ago. I may glaze the whole thing one more time and then do a couple more layers. So again, the more accurate answer to the question, how do you paint a white object? The answer is layer upon layer upon layer. Okay? You don't just grab the white and go. If you do, it will look bad. And believe me, I've seen a lot of bad paintings of white things. And almost always, when I see an early journey painter who's painted a white object, the mistake they made is they grabbed the white paint way prematurely. No matter what it is, snow on a mountain, you know, a white Cadillac, a white cat, a white dress, whatever it is, a white shirt. Do we need to, are we ready to tip it up? Have we got put boards underneath it first?
I would suggest that. What do you think?
Okay, gang, I need to take a quick little break here and go help Doug out in the driveway. He's doing some building, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. You know what? Let's do that. Give me a few more minutes, Doug, and then I'll sign off here. All right. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a little bit more white. So what I just did is added some titanium white to the color. I told you it was the color of pancake batter a minute ago. So now it's slightly paler pancake batter. Ooh, nice. This is just piece of cardboard, pasteboard, I think is maybe the old-fashioned name for this kind of cardboard. Not corrugated cardboard, you know, just regular single ply. Works very well, as does a business card. So I'm using it like a palette knife to get some little hard sparkle edges. All right, I'll put that down. Go back to brush painting for a minute.
Business probably got one that won't look like that.
No, I'm good. And I've mentioned before, just the other night, I think at the wedding that I was painting 3 nights ago, I was talking about painting with my left hand. I didn't start painting with my left hand until I was about 50, so it's a late development in my painting. One of the best things I ever did for my painting skill, my painting career. And I used to be very, what's the word, gentle about it and say, well, you know, that's just me. I paint with 2 hands, blah, blah, blah. I've gotten a lot more ornery about it. You know, one of the things that made me start painting with 2 hands was reading that Leonardo da Vinci painted with 2 hands, and I kind of, light bulb came on and I said, what the heck? How come nobody's paying attention to this? Leonardo da Vinci painted with 2 hands. Why aren't we all? That was one of the impulses. And now that I've been doing it for 10 or 15 years, I think that more than ever. If I were a college painting professor, every student would be, I'm not kidding, every student would be required to paint with 2 hands. You can do it. You don't have to be, I was not ambidextrous at all when I started. I taught myself. If you had some kind of bad accident that caused you to lose your dominant hand, whether that's left or right, within a matter of months, your other hand would have nearly perfectly caught up to the skill of your thumb if you lost the use. I think we've all heard, you know that's true. Well, you can train your hand. Anyway, but the question of why would you bother learning how to use your left hand? A number of reasons. One is the essence of good painting is making interesting marks. Making interesting marks is the essence of good painting. And as soon as you introduce a second hand, you have twice as many marks at your disposal, because that was a nice happy accident, by the way. It really was an accident, and it really is happy. Because your left hand, or you understand, your non-dominant hand, for you lefties, your non-dominant hand makes marks different from your dominant hand. But the other is, I was mentioning too, that it feels like I'm operating out of a different part of my brain. It's a little more difficult for me to draw with my left hand. So that, like right now, as I'm forcing myself to try to draw realistically, it's hard to describe. I feel it, it's hard to describe it. It's like I'm giving myself a handicap, a drawing handicap, because I'm using my wrong hand. And the extra energy, yeah, see now the dark lines in here are too dark, which is really just fine with me. Let me go ahead and address that right now. I'm gonna mix up something slightly lighter than what's there. What was I saying? Oh, handicap. So when drawing with my left hand puts me at a handicap, hinders my drawing. And it feels like my brain has to work a little extra hard to draw with my left hand. But voila, as soon as I force myself, as soon as I force my brain to overcome that handicap, I find that I'm drawing actually slightly better. Do you understand? I draw worse, therefore I try harder. The final upshot of that is I find myself drawing better. I can't prove all that. I may not be correct, but that is the way it feels. So I'll find myself, I'll often do what you see me doing right here, which is drawing, and I mean the word drawing specifically, trying to accurately copy or render. Because I throw myself a curveball. My brain has to work extra hard because it's my left hand. And it's like it puts me into a zone where I end up drawing slightly better than I would if my right hand, of course, goes much more quickly. You know, it's like my right hand takes off without me. My left hand doesn't let me do that. I have to stay mentally present, on point the whole time. I can't take a microsecond vacation like I can with my right hand, my dominant hand. All right. So, as I said, if you were my student, a semester-long painting student, you would be required. Here's part of my, I don't know what the word is, rationale, or think about it. Think about it for a minute. Like, I've met in my career 2 or 3 other artists in my whole life that paint with 2 hands. So we're a pretty rare bunch. Think about it though. If you go to a concert, nobody, almost no matter what kind of concert it is, nobody suddenly stands up in the middle of the audience and says, "Golly, look at that piano player. They're using 2 hands." Guitar player, drummer. Drummer uses 2 hands and 2 feet. An organist as well. The only instrument I can think of just about that's not the case is a harmonica. A harmonica can use, even they use 2 hands, but anyway. A trumpet, I play a trumpet. 2 hands. Anyway, you get it? Everybody else in the world uses 2 hands. What makes artists think they got it off so easy? No, I'm an artist. I use 1 hand. What? I'm smearing, as you can see, and I'll come back and re-hit that edge again. But I think I'm going to stop right there. That's good enough. You got to see me do, and I haven't gotten anywhere close to white yet on this dress. Okay, so I rest my case, if you will. How do you paint a white thing? Use anything but white paint. I will eventually use not pure titanium, but warmed titanium white at a few places on this dress. Just a few specks here and there along this edge, right here reflecting off the bow on the back of her dress. A little sliver right there. Everything else will be muted. All right. I have other things to do on this painting, but they'll have to wait, and that's a good place for me to stop. Let me see what you guys are saying here for just a second. Hello, Jan. You are very welcome. Oh, yeah, I can let you know, yeah. How to donate, Jan says. Thank you so much. If you go to my channel, where I have a picture, big wide picture, over toward the right, it says there's two links, PayPal and something else. Right here on YouTube, you can make a donation. It's called Super Chat, but YouTube takes 20% or some pretty large amount, 25 maybe. So if you can go to PayPal, there's a link at the top of my channel. Thanks for asking. It's very gracious of you. Hello, Gia. You paint a manga style. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. By TRC 450. Bye-bye. Yeah, I love what manga is doing for the younger generation. I really do, because they are very serious about the ancient traditions of art, rendering the human figure accurately and beautifully. Of course, in manga, with some stylization, of course, but still working very hard. And I think manga is a great way to start. Your art career may end there as well. It's possible. But be that as it may, anybody doing manga, I'll say manga, is, if you're typical manga, you're working hard to do beautiful figures, if you will. Am I right? Is that your experience? And so I bless that very enthusiastically. It's a great way. In fact, I have some little figures over here that sort of come from the manga world, made in Japan, I think, these little creatures. They come with an assortment. I found them advertised on my my kids are playing with them, grandchildren the other night, and they put a right hand on the left arm. My little granddaughters. Anyway, this is from the world of manga. You pose them the way you want them, and kind of, again, sort of heroic figures, pretty muscly and pretty well-endowed woman there. I hope my granddaughters didn't notice. Anyway, bless you. Thanks, guys, for watching. Appreciate it. I hope to broadcast again tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.